walls. And I was there on the Capitol steps registering some of these students who were marching, trying to get them to participate in our democracy. And we had some success, it was fine, but one of the legislators came out from the Capitol, actually, as session was going on, came out and addressed the students and said very, very matter-of-factly and very succinctly, why should I listen to you? You all don't vote. Students, young people never ever vote. And until you do, I have to answer to the people that put me in office. And those are the people that vote. And so that is a pretty stark and explicit reason why if you want to make change in your government, you actually have to participate in that government. This is the United States of America, a representative democracy. And until you vote, you can't really expect people to listen to you because they're reacting to the needs of the people that put them in office. So it's your duty to go out there and vote if you really want your voice to be heard.
Yeah, and if I can just piggyback off that, I think it's really important that we speak to Black people very cleanly and clearly about their right to vote, because it has been something in our historical context that it has been suppressed since we were brought to this country, and our community has had to fight for our right to vote. So to this day, we still face so much disenfranchisement, and it's because if it didn't matter, then there would be no disenfranchisement. They'd be like, okay, fine, go ahead and vote. But it matters so much that they would put things in place. So if you don't know why people are like, make sure you vote, it's really because there is so much power in that vote, in electing someone to represent you. And so I want to be super clear with that especially for Black people, we know that that we need to be represented and we need to be heard, and our issues need to be brought to the table and solved, and it needs to be a priority in this country. And so our job is to say, voting does matter and your vote does matter, and there's so much power in that.
Excellent, excellent. Any other feedback?
Yeah, I'd like to add, not only is it important to vote for national offices, but it's extremely important to vote in state and local races. And one anecdote that's very meaningful for me has to do with Amendment 4, the Voting Restoration Amendment that was passed in 2018, which restored voting rights to felons as long as they were not convicted of murder or felony sex offense, and as long as they completed all terms of their sentence, including probation and parole. Shortly after the passage of Amendment 4, the state legislature,
Yes.
Not the US Senate, not the US House of Representatives, but the state of Florida legislature passed a law that's referred to as Senate Bill 7066, which greatly limited the impact of Amendment 4. And in addition to requiring that former felons complete their incarceration, probation, and parole, it also required that they had to pay any fees, fines, court cost, or restitution that were associated with their felony. And most felons are not well off when they commit their felony, and they're certainly not going to be well off after they complete their sentence. And so this greatly reduced the impact of Amendment 4. So the point I want to make is it's not whether you support or don't support Amendment 4. The point is that what the state representatives do, not just national representatives, has a major impact on the lives of many, many people. In this case, the ability to vote of many individuals. And they're local as well.
Right.
I'd absolutely agree with that. I would say your local, state and local representatives are the most important influencer in how you live your life and the laws that affect you.
I wouldn't rule out national though.
I agree. They send us to war and what have you, but the things we want to have done, elections are run at the state level. Many of the things that impact your lives are done at the state level, and even in city and county, and without having a say in those races and not actually participating. And frequently those are our least turnout elections, like the August 18th primary election. Many local leaders were decided in that election. And we only had a record turnout, or very close to a record turnout, 36% of the vote.
President Barry, I'd like to also just add into the conversation and just remind everybody that voting is a privilege for some. And, you know, there was a period in time where African Americans had to take examinations and were beaten and had dogs sicked on them and weren't able to vote. So I don't take this, this privilege that I have to vote lightly. I take it very seriously. As some people say, our ancestors have been marching since before the 1960s and to present day, and we're still marching and demanding justice for some of the same reasons. And the way that we get justice, the way that we protect our voices and our representation in any community is to vote. To not vote is to not have an opinion. You can march all day in the streets and say Black Lives Matter all day, but if Black Lives Matter, it matters most at the polls. It matters most. If you want justice for Breonna Taylor, you get that at the polls. A lot of the people that we have to come against in my line of work, in law, and across the justice movement, a lot of the people that we have to convince to do the right thing are elected officials. And normal people like you and me, we make the decisions on how long they stay in office and which candidate will do the right thing at the right time. And certainly not voting is part of the issue. It's a major part of the issue because a lot of the cities that we cannot get justice or justice doesn't seem fair. A lot of the times I asked everybody what the voter turnout was, you know, when we're marching
exactly right.
on the streets, you know, I asked everybody before you talk about a Black Lives Matter and you're the leader of a movement, did you vote? Did you get some other friends to vote? And you'd be surprised. The people leading the movement don't vote. I'm like, no, it can't happen. You've got to vote. You've got to participate in public. You've got to join in on the fight. You have to speak out. And it's not a popular thing to do. However, it's the right thing to do because this is a privilege and one that I do not take lightly and one that you should take very seriously.
And that's a really important point. Everyone has made great important points, whether it's about local elections, because even when you look at how we've responded to the pandemic, the decision making has been pivoted to different folks. Sometimes it's at the state level, sometimes it's at the municipal level, it could be at the city or the county level. And so the decisions that are made by our local representatives. And it's really important to get out into all of those areas and those local elections as well as those national elections. Who needs to register to vote?
If you want to vote in Florida, you have to be a registered voter. So if you are not a registered voter and you're 18 years of age or older, and you're a U.S. citizen with your rights intact, you need to get registered. You have until October 5th to get registered.
October 5th, and that is on this
coming Monday.
This coming Monday. So in order to vote in the November 3rd election, you have to be registered by October 5th, this coming Monday. Yes.
Can I just add to that, that if people, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, if people are mailing in their registration form, it needs to be postmarked by October 8th, not received by October 8th. And I made a point of saying that because on one of the government websites, vote.gov, it says it must be received by October 8th. And so I just wanted to clarify that.
Having said that, and you're exactly right, Barb, but I would not leave it a chance. If you're a student here in Leon County, either get online and get registered to vote or come to my office. We've been open full throttle. We've got ballots coming in, hundreds of ballots. Probably had 500 ballots come in our front door today. People are already voting. So if you want to vote this election, I would suggest you come into my office, but at least go to, online. It's leonvotes.gov/OVR for online voter registration. And I'll put that in the chat.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. And we will also put it on our Facebook page as well. We're talking about college students. We're talking about younger voters and different types of voters. What audiences are harder to register? Are there underrepresented voters? You know, we've been with our chapter work, we've been doing census work, and we've been going to underrepresented communities and helping them to complete the census and bringing awareness to the census. And this made us think about voters. Are there underrepresented voters? Are there certain demographics that we need to ensure that we reach out to?
I know the supervisor of elections is probably going to take these questions, but I would just say, I would just say from our experiences within the NAACP, the college campuses, I know certainly Mark Earley, we have a very fantastic supervisor of elections, one that we are blessed to have because other areas don't have them. But typically college campuses tend to be the hardest to get them to switch their voter registration. There's sometimes a hesitation from college students who say, I don't want to register to vote here in Leon County because I'll go and vote back home. But the reality of it is they don't travel back home to participate in their voter elections. They don't request absentee ballots from the hometowns that they're coming from, the different counties that they're coming from before moving here for school. And a lot of the hesitation that I've also found is that because they simply don't even know the dorm address. And so it's just a reluctance on registering because they don't want to register it to the incorrect address and things of that nature. But I have to often remind them that when you're marching here in Leon County for justice, when you're wanting to see change, you can't make that change when you have no voice where you're living at. And so certainly I also remind them that it's not something permanent. You can always switch it back, but you want to have a voice in local government. You want to have a voice on those who make the day-to-day decisions, not only at, from the White House, but also the local representation that we elect here. So those to me tend to be the hardest groups and those that we focus on. I think Mark and his office has done a tremendous job at getting almost 94% of Leon County residents there. But that college student crowd, we need to do better, and we have to get our young people to understand the seriousness between FAMU, FSU, and TCC. They make a large percentage of Leon County voters, and they need to exercise that power if they're going to want to see change. The power is within them as well.
And if I could jump in, you had a specific point there that a lot of times students think they'll just get a vote by mail ballot sent to them. I was young, I have kids, young adults procrastinate, especially when you've got an onslaught of schedules and tests and everything coming at you. I used to only say, sure, you can just stay registered in your home county just to make sure you get a vote by mail, but it's not happening, as you say. So we've changed our tack this year, and we're really expressing to folks, if you want to vote, the best way, the way that gives you the most options, if you're a student here in Leon County, at say a FAM or FSU or TCC or what have you, get registered here, because that just opens up so many more options. If you've put things off, you don't have a vote by mail ballot in hand and it's close to the election, come down to my office and we'll give you one and you can vote here real quick. Or you can go to early voting, or you can even go election day, the last chance really to vote. But if you stay registered in your home county, your only option is to get a ballot mailed to you. And that takes a long time to get to you. And then you have to mail it back. And there's just so many more ways that could go wrong. And you have so fewer options. So yes, I would very much encourage students to get registered here in Leon County.
One thing I want to add, if there are any students listening, is some students are concerned that if they change their address from their parents' address, it may affect student loans, and it doesn't affect anything except where you can vote.
Yes, thank you. Priestley, I want to bring you into the conversation regarding getting voters registered and mobilized. We have a question from Facebook asking, what have we observed in getting young voters registered and mobilized, because the person who's asking is saying that they see so much apathy out there.
Yeah, I love that question, and I have a lot of tools in my tool case, so let's buckle in and let's get down to it. I think one thing when you're talking to young people is you have to understand they have a lot of really good points. So out the bat, you're right, just say that, they're right, a lot of their feelings are right. And I think especially I'm the youngest person on here, so I'm gonna just be I'll just represent us for a second. A lot of the times they think the entire voting system is archaic. Why can't we vote on our phones or on the computer? This is just kind of ancient in general, and it is us having to truck down to the office to cast our ballot. It just sounds crazy to us, but that's okay. And we should understand that. When we're talking to young people, we also have to say, Michelle Obama really put it really well. She said, would you allow your grandma to pick out your outfit when you're going to the club? And no, you would not. My grandma would not pick out the right outfit for me to go there. And so that's how we need to appeal to them, is to say, like, there is something that's happening, and you're like, there's a meeting that's happening and you are on the ballot. The things that affect your life are on the ballot. And how do you, and the meeting is going to happen whether you like it or not. Do you want to be in the room? And like, that's what voting is. Voting is not a marriage. You're not married to these people forever. Voting is like, you need to get to a destination, and you're gonna pick the bus that's going the closest to you. You could walk a few blocks there yourself, but you're gonna at least get on the bus that's heading in the right direction. Those are a few more. One other one is like connecting it to social justice right now. Everything that's happening right now in our communities is just crazy, and I think young people are just enraged. And one specific situation that I'd love to talk to young people about is Breonna Taylor, and speaking about her the way her case is being handled, and who has power in that case, and like thinking about the district attorney is an elected official that people elected for that position. And that is why you need to vote. You need to elect people that represent you and represent what you think, and hold them accountable. So for me, when I'm thinking about how do we talk to young people, number one, validate them. Most of the time they're right. We need to listen to them, put them in power, and tell them to run for office. And number two, we need to get them on there. A lot of the times voting seems really archaic. We need to stand with them. All right, let's register to vote right now, right here, right now. All right, let's create a plan. What day are you going to vote early? How are you going to, request your ballot? And really just work with them, but also just kind of break it down for them. And a lot of the times when you're young, people just say like, oh, when you get older, you're going to vote. Like, no one really says like when you're 18, like, at least for me when I was younger, I was like, okay, well, voting happens for the old people. Like, it's not really something I should be involved in. And then I got older and I was like, wait, what? I get to say on this? I have a say in this? And so I just, I would say that would be my advice for our young folk out there. Let's have your voice heard.
Kimberly, Miss Kimberly, I'll jump into this question. One thing that I found very effective is I stopped asking people, are they registered to vote? And then I asked them a more challenging question. Are you correctly registered to vote? Because my siblings have been registered to vote, but they're registered to vote back home. And then I had to you're not going home every time. Change your registration to where you're living at now, vote locally so you don't have to go back home. And so those are the questions that when someone's like, well, what do you mean by that? Because I think when you have somebody, they could have pre-registered in high school that automatically converted their registration. And when you say, are you registered to vote? Yeah, I registered to vote, but they're not gonna go out. They're not doing anything with it. They just, it's an easy question. So I challenge everybody that's going out there, that's working with us to say, hey, ask individuals, are you properly registered to vote? Also, I have to sometimes break down for typically college students who are not as engaged as adults in the political process. I let them know how decisions are made. I ask them common questions like, do you like the price of your electricity? No, it's high in there. I said, well, do you know the individuals who are responsible for, governing that? You have to break it down for individuals, because you cannot make the assumption that everyone that's living in the community knows what local governments does. I mean, even in the world of civil rights, we have people that don't know the difference between what civil rights attorneys do and what criminal attorneys do. So I don't underestimate that anyone has the knowledge of what local government does, what the federal government does, how they don't overlap with each other, and what roles that each sector of government plays. And so I tell everybody, you have to take the time to educate too when you're registering to vote. So I'll add that to Ms. Johnson's comments.
Thank you. You talked a little bit about when students register when they graduate from high school and then they move on. So I have two parts to this question. The first part is, what is the rule for 17-year-olds and those who are underage? What are the rules regarding registration for them?
Yeah, I'm actually going out to Rickards High School tomorrow and doing an in-person outreach. We'll be doing a lot of question and answers like this, but also we're going to try and get people to register what's really called pre-registration. So in Florida, once you turn 16, you can pre-register to vote. And it's just like registering to vote, except you're not exactly eligible yet until you turn 18. But pre-registration is a great way to get registered. I pre-registered my kids, and we do that a lot in the high school. So if you're a U.S. citizen and a citizen of Florida and you're 16 years of age or older, you can, if you're between 16 and 18, fill out the voter registration form. You can do it online and you will be pre-registered. And as soon as you turn 18, even if it's election day and you're inside what's called book closing, because there's that deadline. So say you turn 18 on November 3rd. You might think, well, I can't get registered until October 5th and my birthday's after that. Well, you get pre-registered when you're 16 or 17, and that way, even if your birthday's on election day, that day you can actually go out and vote. So we are very active in the high schools to try and get these younger students registered and pre-registered. So if you're 17, you can absolutely get registered to vote. It's pre-registered and becomes effective when you turn 18.
You know, when you said the question, what is the rule for 17-year-olds? I thought you said, what is the role for 17-year-olds? So I'm gonna just go ahead and jump in, because the 17-year-olds and under have a role in this upcoming election as well. You need to make sure your parents are registered to vote. In order to register, in order to actually do voter registration, you don't need to be 18 years and up. And we have a program at our at When We All Vote called My School Votes, and it's for our high schoolers who are ready. They're pumped up, they're ready to go, and they want more people that reflect their views in office. And so if you are a younger person out there and you want to get active, you can. You don't have to wait till you get older. That's no longer a notion. That's a thing of the past. And so what I am going to ask you to do is to get in the game, jump in there, make sure your parents are registered to vote, your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, everybody is registered to vote, and you have the power to do that.
Thank you. I also heard something about poll workers the other day.
We love a good poll workers at When We All Vote. I'm gonna just jump in here with my little spiel, and I'll let our supervisor give the real deal. But so the poll workers are really important. It's a great way. I'm just gonna speak real plainly to y'all. It's a great way to earn some cash, some money, really quick for 1 days of work. And you can get paid for early voting, to be an early vote day poll worker, or day of election day poll worker. But one thing that is really important, especially for my younger crowd out there, is that our elders are the ones that usually held these jobs down. And our elders are also the ones that are mostly prone for COVID-19. And so our job is to step up and to say, well, we're not going to have less polling locations because we don't have that many poll workers. That's not an option. That's just not going to happen. What we're going to do is we're going to get paid. We all love a good paycheck, and we're going to do some simple work to make sure that our elections are safe and protected, and we're going to help people, direct them in the right directions, and we're going to get paid for it. So I want to definitely plug that. You can sign up for that on our website, but I believe Mark probably has some great resources for y'all as well.
Yeah, we everything you said is dead on. The one thing you left out is it's incredibly fulfilling too. When you're helping all these people come in, that's why I love my job. I've been doing this for 34 years, not always elected, but working in elections. And it's just, it's a great way to serve your country, truly. And it feels very good. And being our poll workers, once you get hooked into elections, you want to stay. And one way to do that and still have a career is to be a poll worker. I will say that we have a very large number of poll workers, even in reserve this time, because we put out the word for the last several months. And so we've had a great community response. So we're in we're in very good shape. And a lot of the older folks, really have taken this year off to and we've had a great response from state workers and the rest of the community to make sure that all of our voting sites are well staffed. So we feel like we're in very good shape for that. But again, that's why we push vote by mail and we're pushing vote by mail so much, not just to protect people's health, but to make sure that you have a way to vote. As we saw earlier in the year throughout the nation, a lot of times, like Ms. Johnson, you were saying, you don't, not having a polling place is not an option, but sometimes it cannot be avoided if everybody gets so afraid that they won't come out and vote. So we tried to head it off in both ways. Push a lot of people to vote by mail, but also change over our poll workers so that we have very good staffing there and we don't have to worry about that last minute fall off or people just not showing up. But it's you know, we love our poll workers. We couldn't do this without them.
Mark, are you still in need of people to staff the drop boxes?
We are taking applications for that. So yes, if people want to man a drop or staff a drop box, we've got 2 weeks of early voting. We've got 10 sites. So we are having a big push right now to get people to fill those positions. Actually, I decided yesterday at the end of the day that we needed to get a volunteer even here at my office to man our drop box that we currently have because we have so much traffic. So many people are bringing in ballots. It was just overwhelming my staff here. So yes, I believe we have a link on our website too. I don't have it at my fingertips to actually be able to take those applications. And it's somewhat volunteer, but I think we have some paid positions there too. So you can also call my number. It's 850-606-8683 or 606-VOTE and just say you want to work one of the drop boxes. And we are taking people in to do that very important job this election.
Thank you. Thank you. So we've talked a little bit about voting and registering to vote with the supervisor of elections. Sometimes people are approached by third-party organizations that strive to register voters. And so does anyone else here serve as a third-party organization? What are the requirements for third-party organizations and how do you know that they're legitimate, basically?
I can speak up to that. The Tallahassee branch of the NAACP is a registered third-party voter organization. There was once, I think we were quite early, but there was a training that was offered for us that we sat through, went over the do's and don'ts when doing voter registration. For those that know Attorney Crump, they know he had a very big case out in Madison. You can get in some very serious trouble for incorrectly conducting voter registration. So we're very careful. The applications that we had, voter registration applications, has our serial numbers on them, so we're responsible for them. There's strict timelines, and I'll let the Supervisor of Elections comment on that, but when you need to get them in from the time that you receive them to ensure that people are actually registered to vote and it's not on a delay on your part. I've seen some horror stories where those did get in on time. And so it's a huge responsibility to have. And, you know, for our organization, I take personal responsibility for the ballots, take personal responsibility for the registrations that we collect. And I ensure that I don't even trust that I take them myself down to the Supervisor of Elections office. And I have a checks and balance system where one person will call and say, hey, did those ballots make it over? Did you take them? And did you turn in the number that we collected? So we ensure that we don't have a ballot out there that wasn't incorrect. And I think also with third-party voter organizations, from the training we receive, we look at all of the critical points that need to be executed on the ballots. They're kind of very highlighted very easily so that you make sure that all the required boxes are filled in so that the person's registration is there. They don't have to pick a political party, but certainly all of the critical information that is needed is very important that they have it there. So we love being a registered third-party voter organization. We think that it's easier for us to reach a section in our community that might not respond to other individuals. And one thing that I would serving with various other third-party organizations is that I learned that some people may register based on who asked them. Sometimes, you know, when you're asking people to fill out forms, people get nervous, especially if they don't know you. But if you're a face in the community, someone that they know and that they trust, it can make a huge difference in someone taking out 10 to 15 minutes and getting registered to vote. So I enjoy it, certainly. Those are my sentiments and feelings on that.
Yeah, Adner, and your group does a great job. But I think what you said there about, you know, a recognizable face from the community. We do lots of outreach, but sometimes the apathy is not just in actually going to vote, but getting registered. And I think a lot of that depends upon how they're being approached. So we value our 3PVR, third-party voter registration organizations, greatly. We do a lot of that training like you're talking about. To become a 3PVRO, though, really you just go to the state's website and sign up, and you have to say who your officers are and who's going to be responsible for collecting the Florida voter registration applications. And then once you get a 3PVR number, you can call my office and we'll get you trained up. I know the Tallahassee League of Women Voters has a big part, and we get a lot of our volunteers for our outreach programs from them also. So it's a great partnership. There are some definite fines. You have to get those voter registration applications turned into us within 10 days, or the fines can really start adding up. Because you have someone's vote in your hands before they even get registered, and they may show up at the polls thinking they got signed up, and turns out they didn't. And there's not much you can do at that point if the forms didn't get turned in. So.
Okay, so let's pivot a little bit about going to vote. So you decide whether it is on election day or in early voting or voting by mail. So you have these different options. If you are going to vote in person, what is required? What do you need to bring?
The best way to vote in person, the best thing to have is your Florida ID, either a driver's license or maybe a walking around ID. You don't have that, basically what we need, well, there's 16 different types of ID we're allowed to take. And in general, those are official ID cards. A lot of students use, say, like their FAMU ID that has, I think, a signature and then maybe a credit card with your picture on it. And that would work with the two things combined. But concealed carry permit, there's the government ID for like a security card or things like that. In some instances will work. But really, there's a big list of all 16. I don't know them off the top of my head. A military ID, a passport, those are good ones also. But an out-of-state driver's license will not work. So if you're a student from out of state and you're registered here in Leon County to vote, an out-of-state driver's license will not work. So that's an important thing to know. And one last comment about that. If you show up and you are a registered voter, but you don't have your ID in any shape or form, we will still let you vote, but it'll be a provisional ballot. And so instead of putting your ballot in the voting machine, you'll put it in an envelope. And it may sound scary, but we count the vast majority of those. And you put your ballot in there and you'll fill out a form that's part of the envelope, and we give you a number that you can actually track it through our website to see what the status is. And we'll just look you up and make sure your signature matches and make sure all the information matches on that form that's on the envelope. And then we'll take it out and we'll go ahead and feed it in. And we get those added to the results we have until 5 p.m. on Thursday, 2 days after the election, to make those determinations, and we add them in there on that Friday.
Thank you. Thank you. Barb, you're just
when you're going to go vote in person, out of respect for the poll workers and other voters, it's would be nice to wear a face mask too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That was just cover one thing about in-person voting.
And I was going to ask that during the pandemic, what should be considered when heading to the polls? What kinds of precautions are being taken, and what should we think about before we go out?
Yeah, and this is a big part of our education efforts. First of all, I would say if you're going to vote in person, don't wait till election day. Okay, that's the last chance to vote. Early voting started in Leon County here in Florida. Leon County Courthouse was the first early voting site in the entire state. For a long time, it was the only early voting site. And we had a lot of pushback, but we fought for that because the law actually had a problem. They forgot a comma, which we took advantage of. And once the state workers and some of the state folks who are representative, here and happen to live here started voting that way, they decided to make that a requirement that all counties now have to have it. So in a time of pandemic, though, wear a mask, please. We cannot enforce that, and we can't restrict somebody from not coming in. But our poll workers, they are heroes. They are out there in a time of pandemic. Many of them still are at an at-risk age group. that they're really putting their lives on their lines to let you come in to vote. So it's a simple courtesy. Wear your mask, no matter what you think about masks anywhere else. Just wear it. We have masks at the door. You can put one on, go in, vote, and as soon as you're done, you can throw it away. That's fine. But we also have hand sanitizer. We clean all of the surfaces very often. We try and keep up and do it after every single voter. We're limiting the access into the polling site so that we don't have crowds in there. All the more reason to come out early. We've got 2 weeks of early voting going on. And right now you can even come and pick up a ballot in my office instead of even having it mailed to you and vote here and drop it off. So we have lots of opportunities instead of waiting until November 3rd to make sure you can vote safely and with great social distancing. So please take advantage of that. It's very frustrating as a supervisor to see the early voting sites get pounded the last day out of 2 weeks of early voting. Suddenly at 5 o'clock, we get this huge line that it takes, until 8 or 8:30 to process all those voters in line when they had 2 weeks prior to that to go vote. And, so we're trying to get the word out and trying to spur people to action earlier on.
Absolutely. And I would just add on top of that, take advantage of the mail-in ballots to avoid all those lines. Pick up a ballot, vote there, fill your ballots out, and bring it into any of the early voting precincts or at your office if it's going to be November 2nd or 3rd. Just bring it back to the main office on Parkway. But certainly, like I said, don't wait to get in a line. That's one of the things that the NAACP gets all the time is calls about the lines were long or they're a little bit longer. Certainly, you can avoid all of that just by voting early and just taking your mail-in ballot, filling it out and just dropping it off at one of the boxes early. And that gives you enough time to see if it's been tracked and collected and when they have it. So again, that's another reassurance. And again, I thank our supervisor of elections for all of the options that we have received in this county, because trust me, in some other counties, they're not there. So certainly take full advantage of it. And I would just tell everyone that, I'm glad to hear that even with residents that have concerns after speaking with our supervisor of elections office, they have great confidence in the provisions that we have in place, and it relieves some of their fear, because really with what we're hearing in the news, and I'm gonna be blunt about it, I'm the NAACP president, about the removal of the boxes, and we all know what that's all about. We cannot take any chances with our votes being messed around with, disenfranchised. We've got to move forward and ensure that our votes are actually received and that our voices are heard. So you already know what time it is. You have to come out. You have to go vote. Bring somebody with you. Check on your neighbors, your friends, and everybody else. I have a rule in my little circle. Everybody knows if you don't vote, I can't hang around you. I'm just sorry.
That's the thing.
So
one little nugget that I want to just drop onto this is that we want everyone to become October voters. So that's what we're going to just hashtag be the October voter. Don't wait till November 3rd and be waiting in nobody's line. I think people like lines. It's a thing. I don't understand it. But this time we're not going to be waiting in nobody's line. So we just need you to be the exemplar October voter, whether that looks like you doing your vote by mail and mailing it in, dropping it in a drop box, early voting. There's so many options out there. Whatever you need to do, get that ballot in October, so that on November 3rd, if you can, that you're sitting at home and watching it like the rest of us.
Let me just add, I got one more thing. I'm sorry, I got one more. Okay. A lot of hesitation also on the ballots is two sections, not even to do with the candidates that are running, but number one, the retention polls, that's very important. Many judges don't even campaign, or justices of the Supreme Court don't campaign, because I don't think it's been a long time since someone has been removed off the ballot based off the retention, because a lot of people don't know who the judges are, so they just check that they should be retained. And so for our community, it is very serious. Take an example. If you don't know these judges and you need some help, call us, Ben Crump Law, call me at the NAACP. I'll tell you about some of the judges and some of the rulings that they make and how they affect us. Certainly we'll be willing to help you go through the ballot there. Also, the amendments tend to be very difficult for people to get an understanding of. Sometimes they're wordy and confusing. Certainly the NAACP has put out a guide. I'll be posting that on our website, should be available after midnight today. It'll be on our website, NAACPTallahassee.org. Also, we'll share, but it's also out there. The League of Women Voters had a very good guide as well. And they kind of give you some insight on the amendments. Not all of the times do we agree on each of the amendments, but it gives you just a sense of organizations that are nonpartisan and where they actually stand on some of the issues and what they feel you should go with. So if you're needing some guidance there and additional guidance on those issues, we definitely have them, but certainly we're here as a resource. So certainly reach out to us if you need to or need some assistance in some of those questions as well.
Yeah, take him up on that. Another thing, a website that's very good, if I can plug, it's a League of Women Voters website, vote411.org. Vote411.org is an award-winning website, and it's one of the most difficult websites to navigate, I have to say. But if you go to vote411.org and you click on what's on my ballot or show me what's on my ballot and you enter your address, it'll pull up the candidates that are going to be on your ballot, and as well as the amendments and the judges. And if you can figure out how to use it, you can get some really good information. So for example, on candidates, the league asks each of the candidates for each of the offices, national, state, and local, specific questions that are relevant to the office that they're running for, with a little explanation of what that office is supposed to be doing. And then you can compare side by side how each of the candidates answers our questions. And so you're not comparing apples and oranges, people answering, talking about issues that they want to talk about. You can see how they answer the questions. And then there'll also be a brief explanation of the amendments. And there's also some links on the retention judges, the judges that are up for retention, where you can also click on a link there for how the Florida bar members had rated these individuals and in terms of their competence and so forth. So another source of information.
Thank you. I would just want to say that in our community, we are just so blessed because we have all of these different resources. We have a supervisor of elections that really cares about making sure that all of our votes are counted and our voices are heard. I know I was looking at my Facebook memories from 4 years ago today, and we actually had a similar program with our previous supervisor of elections, Ian Sancho, on this very day in 2016. And so I'm glad to continue the partnership and continuing to get everything out there. And also the League of Women Voters was there at that same event. And so we have our supervisor of elections, we have our league, we also have our NAACP, and all of you put out these guides to help people, because you're right, the judges always get votes, the judges and the amendments, and you're not exactly sure, and people are wondering, what is this amendment really saying? And everyone breaks those things down. I've been voting by mail since my son was born. He's 12 now. And I just remember that day not being able to commit whether or not I was going to get to the polls. And so I went ahead and signed up for vote by mail, and I checked the box where I received the future ballots in the mail, and it's been going on 12 years now. And it actually really reduces the anxiety because you're able to sit down with your ballot and really research and make true decisions that are informed, and you don't feel rushed. So I'll put a plug in for mail-in ballots as well.
I want to put in a quick plug, and we've all complimented Mark Earley on what a great office. People may not realize that's an elected office. That's a perfect example of a local office that greatly impacts our lives. Laws may be statewide, but how they're implemented and how easy it is for voters in the county depend on the supervisor of elections. And that is a local office that's
Yes.
Yeah, decided right here in Leon County. Yeah, school board, superintendent, the county commissioners who passed a lot of the laws that students here in the county have to follow. Some of your student experience is really based upon a lot of the local laws that are in place right here. So, you know, it's local. The local candidates are extremely important. I've put a lot of links up here too for how to request a vote by mail ballot, how to track your ballot. Once you request a vote by mail, if you don't get it in, say, a few days, go online, and I've got a link here. It's essentially leonvotes.gov/yourvoterinfo, or there's a big icon. You can put in your name and your date of birth, and you can see that, yes, we received the request for a vote by mail to be sent to you. And once you send it back, you can see whether we've received it, whether there's any problems with the with like your signature or what have you, and whether we've actually counted it at a certain point. So there's a lot of ways to track this kind of all the way through the process. And we have a big resource. It's the election guide. I'll show it to everyone here. We're going to mail these out to all registered voters on October 5th. But you can go online right now, and I put a link there. It's really, if you go to our website, leonvotes.gov, and click on voters, election guide is about the third or fourth one down, and you can look at it now. And it's got very complete information about all the voter IDs that you're allowed to use to vote in person, all of the early voting sites, all of the 86 or 87 polling places within the county, the certain days, ADA voting or voting assistance devices we have at the polling places, sample ballots in English and Spanish. I mean, there's all the full text of the amendments. Everything you can need practically is right there.
Thank you. Thank you. Our woman behind the curtain, Alicia, is taking those links, and she's putting them also on our Facebook Live. And so we'll have that there. We have about 5 minutes left. And of course, there are so many questions that I want to ask, but thinking about two more things. If there's a lot of discussion in the news about voter suppression and voter fraud and all of these types of things, what should you do if you feel like you've been a victim of voter suppression or you believe you've witnessed voter fraud?
Yeah, I would just, to start us off, I just want to say voter suppression is real. Like, sometimes you have to start off at the base level, at the foundation, and you sometimes there's a lot going on in the news. Voter suppression is real. It's not something of the past. It's not something our ancestors had to go through and now it's all fixed. It's something that we're experiencing right now to this day. People want to suppress your vote. And so that's my 2 cents. I know there's so many people here with different resources. The Election Protection Hotline is definitely one. But I would first just start us off by saying it's real. People are actively trying to suppress your vote, taking away postal boxes, going to the polls and yelling at you so you turn away and go home. So these are things to expect, and they are to be expected. There are things to navigate around, and our job is to have our eyes open. In our community, we say stay woke. That means you need to be aware of these things. These are things that are relevant to you, and just know that your job is to make sure your vote is counted from the second you register to vote all the way through to when they count it. And that's when, and after that, and the election will happen. I would say keep your eyes open until the inauguration, honestly, but stay woke, make sure your vote is counted. And if you do have any experience anything, definitely, I think Miss Barb just dropped it into the chat. So please go to the Election Protection Hotline. They'll talk you through what your rights are.
And so I would also encourage people, if you have any concerns or if you encounter any kind of problems, or certainly if you're trying to vote in person and you see people that are kind of getting in your face or trying to be intimidating or anything of concern around elections here in Leon County, call my office. We will take care of it. We're on top of this. We are trying to make sure there's no disincentives to vote or no kind of suppression out there at all. So please call my office and let us know. We're very proactive in that regard.
And I would just add, while there is suppression tactics that may happen there on election day that might just be immediate, don't forget the long-term one too. We have a legislature that has passed legislation that would have made it possible without fines and fees to be paid There's organizations that have stepped up that said, hey, if you need fines and you have fees, they'll take care of them for you. So certainly if you fall into those categories and that's the only thing stopping you from voting, please certainly reach out to our organization. We will put you in contact with those organizations that can assist you with that. Don't fall for these tactics. There's resources out there that will help you. If you're in one of those categories, certainly reach out to our office, because we want to make sure that we get as many people before the 5th assisted to get back on the rolls and to be registered to vote. And that takes a while to clear up. So please reach out to us sooner than later, and we will try to do our best to assist you and get you registered to vote for this upcoming election. So don't forget those two, and certainly reach out to your elected officials at the legislature. Let them know how you feel. You may not have a vote in this particular election, but you certainly have a voice. So certainly call them, let them know where you stand on the issue, and let them know, because you may not have a vote, but those around you, they care about you, they have a vote, and they will vote your interest too. So share those experiences with voters so that we're not re-electing people that are just trying to keep people from voting. You may have made a mistake, but that does not mean that your voice should be removed from our election process. You are a person, you have rights, and you should be treated like a normal human being who has made a mistake and paid their time. So certainly we are standing with you at the NAACP at least.
And everybody on this call or on this forum are really here to empower you. So reach out to any of us and all of us. And I put some some names: Dream Defenders, Big Bend Voting Rights Coalition, the Florida Rights Restoration Council, FRRC. Those are some very good groups that have some very good resources to help out. Make sure that if you're a returning citizen or an ex-felon and you're trying to understand what your rights are and your eligibility, they can help you find that out. As well as my office, we can do some too. As far as suppression goes, let me say one of the biggest things we're really seeing as far as voter suppression is some of the messaging, and I hate to say it, but coming from the highest levels of our government, trying to make people doubt their ability to vote, whether their vote's going to be counted or what have you. Don't believe the misinformation. You are a citizen, you have the right to vote and get registered to vote, and vote, and your vote will be counted. I can speak from my office, but really all the other 67 supervisors of elections. I'm the vice president of our association. I've been working with these folks for a long time. Everybody here is really trying to make sure your vote's counted. Certainly there are some variations between offices, but for the most part, everybody's really looking out for your rights, but you need to let us know if you're having a concern. And don't believe the misinformation out there. Social media is not one of the best places to get your information. Call my office, call the league, call the Tallahassee NAACP, and you'll get the straight scoop on this stuff. So look to the right sources.
I do want to make a quick plug for getting familiar with your county's Supervisor of Elections websites. There's a lot of websites out there that are very good, very legitimate for registering and giving information, but because so much varies by county, you've got to go to the website for your Supervisor of Elections, or like Mark said, call if you don't understand something or you don't have access.
Yeah, if you're not sure, just Google it. Hillsborough County Supervisor of Elections. Craig Latimer's got a great website. A lot of the supervisor election sites are very similar, but a lot of them are, there's different ways to navigate. But a lot of these key links, like tracking your ballot, requesting a vote by mail ballot, getting registered online, those are fairly similar across the board. But yeah, get in there, look at, don't wait, don't procrastinate. That's the biggest enemy to getting your vote counted accurately. It's waiting till the last minute or trying to do something without the right plan. Get a plan in place, and that's how you get your vote counted.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are now at the 7 o'clock hour. It went very quickly.
It did.
So I'm going to ask each one of you, if we remember nothing else from the conversation today, what do you want our viewers to remember? So starting with Priestley, I'll start there. What do you want us to remember?
I would just say, first and foremost, thank you for having me on this. And I've learned so much about Tallahassee and where you guys can go for resources. I'm over here being a student of all of these amazing people on this call. So for me, what I would say, one thing that you can do right now is to make your plan to vote. and become an October voter. So whatever that looks like, create your plan now, put in your phone some calendar reminders. This is not the year to like, oh shoot, I forgot. That's not this year. And so I know that was like a big thing in the past, and even seeing so many people like, oh, I didn't get out in 2016. Oh, it didn't work. It didn't fit into my day. Our job is to make a plan so that you don't have to try to change babysitters on people. Your job is to make a plan now and then put those reminders in your phone and then follow up. Make sure you bring some people with you, and let's get everybody out to the polls. And with that, please make sure you register to vote. We have a partnership with Zeta Phi Beta on a national level. Please register to vote. I think I actually put in the wrong link, so I'm gonna do this again. It's Z Phi B.
Yes.
And
Well,
I'm gonna drop
also
this
/ Z Phi B. Yes.
Chat, and I hope that you guys, if you are not registered, please register to vote. And if you can, spread this to at least 3 people that may need a little bit of extra support today, and make sure that they know the deadline is on October 5th, I believe, for you all. So
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Priestley. Barb, what do you want us to remember?
Can I steal your motto, be an October voter? I like that.
So do I. That's good.
That's really good. I want to add the importance, how empowered you can get by getting information, as we talked earlier, from various organizations or websites like vote411.org, which you can see I'm plugging, but to get information on candidates, and then you'll feel like, I know who I want to vote for. I read or I heard a local forum online, and I know that this person shares my values more than this other person, and I think you'll feel empowered.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Adner, what do you want us to remember, if nothing else?
Well, thank you so much. And the ladies of Zeta Phi Beta, thank you all. On the other note, I'd be remiss not to say I serve as the
I knew it was coming.
president, so y'all not gonna get me in trouble. But thank you for allowing me to do this. It really makes my heart warm to see organizations, Greek, stepping up and doing what we are supposed to be doing, and that is voter engagement in our communities. Priestley, I'm going to be stealing, I'm just letting you know in advance, I'm stealing that new hashtag, be an October voter. You'll be hearing that from me. So if I take credit for it, just thank you in advance for it. But hashtag be an October voter is what we got. Vote early. That's what we take away from this whole thing. It is the urgency of now speaks of Dr. King's march that we cannot wait. Don't, like Priestley said, don't wake up and be one of those individuals where they said the vote was so close, you lost by 200 or 300 votes. And we've heard that and seen that in so many critical elections, and we're paying for it today in some elections. Elections have consequences, and everybody needs to understand that. The life you live, the rights that you have, they all are governed by those who we elect to govern us. And so again, please don't wait, be an October voter. However you want to vote, we encourage that you vote early, but even if you wait till November, just don't make excuses, get it done. I went to a Burger King here in town. I saw the young lady and she said she didn't vote. And I asked to speak to her manager, and I said, can she go vote while you hold the store down? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, go. And she just was shocked, but I'm like, the man was like, well, you're the first customer that ever asked that. I said, well, let me tell you this. I will not patronize a business that doesn't allow their employees to take off a few hours and vote. So do whatever you got to do. If you're shopping somewhere, ask the manager, make sure the people check with the cashier, anybody, make sure that they vote, because your life and our lives depend on it.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mark, what would you want us to
my
remember?
biggest message is do it now. There's no excuse. You can go online and get registered right now. If you're already registered, you can go online and request a vote by mail ballot right now. Make that plan, get it done, Don't wait. Every second you wait makes more likely you're going to completely forget, and then you forget until the last minute and it's too late. And the other biggest thing I want to say, really, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There is a lot of voter suppression out there, but really the biggest disenfranchising aspect of this is apathy. It's self-disenfranchisement. Take the reins, go get your vote counted. And all you have to really do is get your ballot to us. We have to have your ballots by November 3rd at 7 p.m. So if you're going to vote by mail and you have that ballot, we need it by November 3rd at 7 p.m. That's that Tuesday election day at 7 p.m. in whichever county you're voting in. We have to have it.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you to the panel and to the committee for putting on this great event. Once again, thank you to the women behind the curtain, our second Vice President, Alicia Harrison Bailey, as well as your staff, Monique Duncan-Jones, has also been behind the curtain.
Wonderful, yes.
Making sure that this event happened. Go out there, everyone. Go vote. We've provided the links. We've provided links to voting and also to voter information. So be sure to take advantage of that. I want to once again just thank you all for this enlightening and enriching discussion. And we hope that our viewers have a great night.
Thank you for having me.
This is a great forum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I hit stop the live stream. It stopped. All right, thank you, everybody. That was great.
Kimberly, it's one of the best forums I've been a part of, and it's been 2 dozen. This was really good.
Enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. All the right questions. So thank you for including us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well run. Very good. Adner, it's great seeing you.
Great seeing everybody as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the job that you're doing, Mark.
Yeah.
And ladies, it's good meeting many of you. And of course, I've seen Barbara forever.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
We have
Thanks, Alicia, for getting it all done back there.
Oh, thank you. I just want to say, if you want to go to our Facebook page, we have a lot of good comments and a lot of good feedback from tonight.
I shared it on my page. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
We'll do the same. Yes.
Yes. All right.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye. All right.
Be good.
Yeah, I didn't know that I had turned off my camera. Like it was doing that a couple of times.
Girl, Adner texted me and I was like, the first time, I mean, I didn't see it at all the first time, but Adner was like, her camera's off. I was like, turn on the camera.
Yeah, because it was on, but like I think it's somewhere where I hit my mouse pad, it goes off. So.
Gotcha.
Oh, I'm still recording.